I know a lot of them. I don't get into that one. I have to tell you, I am so honored to be here. First, let me start saying that because I have been a fan of his, and he knows this, since 11 years old. Growing up as a child in Brooklyn, listening to Reel, that's how old I am. And I can't believe I have the opportunity to be here today. It still brings me to tears to actually know Marty, the legend, the wonderful human being that you are. Before, I can't believe this is all surreal that, yeah, I have changed. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it that.
I'm still alive.
Okay, I'll come up with a question. I read somewhere not too long ago that Johnny Mathis was a neighbor. Is that true?
Oh yeah, when I was a kid. Yeah.
And did he kind of not push you, but tell you that you had a great voice? And
Well,
I'm also a huge fan of
He had
Johnny
a lot of
Mathis,
brothers, and
so
one of his younger brothers was named Ralph Mathis. And Ralph and I we were dancers actually. We danced in a lot of shows like West Side and Guys and Dolls and things like that. So I knew Ralph, and we were buddies. And we would go to the Mathis home and hang out. And Mrs. Mathis treated me like a son. She called me her seventh son. And so we got to wear Johnny's clothes and hang out with all the greats, like Errol Gardner, Nancy Wilson. And, he had parties at their house. It was just amazing. And so we got to do that. And then when Johnny was out of town, we'd wear his clothes and we'd go down to clubs and we'd sit there and we'd sit in with a trio or two sometimes. But actually at one of the parties I was singing and Johnny came up to me and said, kid, you got a good voice, you ought to try singing, And that was the first pro that actually, kind of made me think about it, actually. But it was a great family. I learned a lot and, and he was like, the top of the heap at the time. So, it was really great. And he had a great family, the whole family, all the brothers. It was really nice. And Mrs. Mathis, she was like a lovely lady. So that was a big influence on me.
Yep. Well, we're happy for that.
Yeah.
Marty, the last time I saw you, I was 19 years old, and you were playing at the Capitol Theater in Colchester, New York.
Ah, I know the Capitol. Yeah.
Tell us what it was like being a musician in San Francisco in your day.
Well, San Francisco was like.
Hello, where are we now?
I'm trying to get into the pearly gates now. St. Peter, see, when I was young, actually San Francisco, was always full of music and comedy and entertainment. And, so when I was a kid, I saw these greats, I saw people like Coltrane and Miles and Thelonious Monk and Bill Evans, I saw, all these great players, and people and singers, Tony Bennett, people like that, and then there was this whole other folk scene that was going on, which I was involved with. So I saw a lot of great people that were in folk music, like the Odettas, like the Hopkins, cats like that, So I was playing folk music and had done a lot, and then I decided I want to use electricity, and a drummer. And I couldn't get any work in all the places like Purple Onion and Hungry Eye and everything, which I played as a folk person. So I decided, well, I'll just open my own club. And there were these people who would come to this hootenanny thing, and I had a night there. And I met them, and they were talking about how they each had $3,000. And I said, well, give it to me. And they said, well, what do you do with it? And I said, I'll open a nightclub, I'll put a band together, you can have the nightclub, and I have the band, They said, okay. So we did that, and as I was building this club and building the band, all these other musicians were looking for a place to play too. There was, like the Warlocks, which became the Dead, and there was Janice and Big Brother, and there was Steve Miller and Santana, and, hundreds of other bands, of Quicksilver, and they, all came in. And so what we do is we'd hire the old blues guys that I had played with, for $400 a night, like Lightning and Fury Lewis and General Lee Hooker, guys like that. And then we would back them, and then we would get to play a set. And then when we opened, all the comedy guys came down, and other musicians would come and just play free sets. So it became a scene suddenly the first day it opened, and so it was a real thrill, because it just went like that, Like the second night we actually played, every record company in the world was sitting in the audience. It was like it happened that fast. It was just amazing. The Matrix, it was called. It was called The Matrix.
The Matrix.
Yeah. But, and it was just a skyrocket ride after that, it was a lot of fun. And, I saw everybody, played with everybody, got to meet everybody, And it was great because, we had guys who organized it and put it together and made it work. Guys like Bill Graham came from New York, and he had the chutzpah, he was a sheik among men. He was one of the funniest guys I ever knew, and he was one of the most powerful. But, I'd say, I heard a record one time, Otis Redding doing These Arms of Mine. I took it to Bill and said, hire this guy, I want to see him. Because he would listen to the bands, and he would hire whoever, you asked for or would talk about. Because all he knew was Latin music. That was his thing, salsa, and Tito Puente, and stuff like that. So he didn't really know much about music, but he would listen to all the band people and just, take it from there. So that was great, you got to see everybody and then he was a real taskmaster, but it was amazing. Of all the people I ever worked for, when we walked on his stage, people were just standing there read it, and he would just say, "It's all yours," and it was like quiet, peaceful. He'd walk out, and no one else ever like that. He was just really a great guy to work for and to know, he really was a superhuman being. I never met anybody like you in the biz. Yeah.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
As we're all saying, you're an inspiration for all of us. When we were younger, we were kids, really. And I
I'm
was
only
wondering-
39. Me and Jack Benny.
So, we've had this inspiration, and I mentioned you, I do music recordings. So, learning and listening to great music. Who were the people? You mentioned Johnny Mathis, Bill Graham, whether they're musicians, producers, who really inspired you. If they were the musicians, the engineers, producers, who were they that really?
Well, I was inspired by, my mother used to listen to Johnny Cash a lot, so, that was big in my household. And my father, he loved Caruso, there are a lot of Caruso records on. He's still to this day a Caruso fan. And, when I was a kid growing up, I liked everybody, everybody was just my friends, so, I didn't realize, how great they were until I got older, actually. I didn't know that, Mike Bloomfield was the white kid who took the blues out of Chicago, and put it on electric guitar. He was just Mike to me, I didn't, after he had died, and I did a documentary about him and interviewed people, I didn't realize, how important he was. Janice was just a sweetheart of a lady and a great singer, now, you look back, it's amazing to think about. Or Jimi Hendrix, those guys were phenomenal, but, we didn't know they were the only ones doing that, it was like, everybody was doing their own thing, But I was influenced a lot by, I hung out a lot with Muddy Waters. I thought he was one of the great singers, So I used to just hang out with Muddy, just hang out with the band, and, I thought he was tremendous. Still to this day, I think he's one of the great singers. And then I heard it was Otis Redding, I freaked. And so I got Bill to get him hired. And then I remember the opening night, there were maybe 50 people in the audience, and Janis Joplin and me and Pigpen were sitting there, and we just smoking dupes and getting drunk and getting off on Otis Redding. And that was, I just hung out with Otis. I thought he was the highest thing I ever saw. And to this day, I still think he was the highest thing I ever saw. The greatest performer I ever saw. And higher than Hendrix, Elvis, anybody. He put on a show that was just blew you against the wall. It was really amazing. And the energy level he attained. And, there were other moments in other bands and things like that, but, it's just, I think my biggest influence was, pop singers like Frank Sinatra, of course, because my parents listened to it. And Tony Bennett, I thought was, he appealed to me a lot. In fact, I'll play you a song I wrote for Tony Bennett because we were in the studio one time and the Stones were over here and we were in B and over here was Tony Bennett and so the Stones and us knew each other so I wanted to meet Tony Bennett so I thought well I'll write him a song so I did that song today and I wrote that for him and I tried to get it to him so he never did it of course I'm sure but that was my intro to him. I gave it to the drummer and he took me into Big Tone and I have this song for you, Mr. Bennett, and that was kind of cool. But so that was one of the guys I was really impressed by. But there were a lot of people. I mean, I just like good singers. I fell in love with Pavarotti when he was happening, and I took my parents. We sat in the front row and watched Pavarotti, and he spit on me. I thought, oh no, all right. That's cool, He's right there in the first row. He's right there. Spit on me. Yeah, do it to me. Give me some of that soul, baby. Cats like that. I mean, I love those. R&B and soul music was a big thing for me. And like Wilson Pickett. I don't know if you know some of these names, but I was a big fan of guys like Dyke and the Blazers. People like that. Levi from the Four Tops. I mean, guys like that. I mean, I thought they were the greats. And to get to meet them and hang out with them, of course, was a thrill. But just people like that. I was just very lucky to be, in the right place at the right time and have a band that was working on the same stages, So that was kind of cool. But, those are some of my influences. And still to this day, I go back and listen to those guys over and over. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever topped those people, or those bands and some of that music, And I listen to a lot that's going on today, and there's some good stuff, but just don't have that something fresh about it, I mean,
Right.
I mean, cheer you up, Anyway.
Somebody handed me the mic, but I'll tell you the question.
What do you think of the Idol, like the American Idol, the reality show?
Oh, I like watching that stuff.
You enjoy that?
Yeah, I do. I watch it. America's Got Talent on. I just love entertainment. I mean, look at that little chick that came up through YouTube and Erica.
Amazing. The one on America's Got Talent.
I mean, my God, that was phenomenal. You haven't seen anybody like that since Judy Garland or something. It's like what a mind-boggling thing to happen. And even though she didn't win, I mean, everything pales beside that little girl, who will probably go on and on forever, But I like all that idol stuff, I wish I was young enough I could get on there and try my hand at it and see what happens, But I like it, the contest, the fun of it, It doesn't mean anything if you win, and a lot of the other people have albums and go on with great careers, But they find a lot of great people, Carrie Underwood, Adam Lambert, I don't know if he's kind of going off, but his next album might be good. I don't know. They kind of overproduced this first one. Anyway.
Anybody else got anything?
I'll ask one of somebody else that I thought this would be the obvious one. As a young teenager, I had a shot to go to Woodstock because I lived in upstate New York, and I passed it up because my mom would have killed me. But as a Woodstock alumni, what is there memorable? I mean, the whole thing is memorable, but
it was rainy, it was muddy. Going back and forth from the motel. We were all stuck in the motel together. Played a lot of poker, got drunk, got a lot of doobie smoke. Sobered up 3-4 times, went back to the stage, and it was a great thing. I remember roaming through the crowd and seeing the diggers feeding people and, just, hanging out amongst the crowd and, watching some of the great performances and stuff.
of course, here again, you were talking, you knew so many of them, so it wasn't the thrill to be on stage with them, but you knew them all anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I had played a lot with Hendrix, so, but he had never done Star Spangled Banner, things like that. I mean, so that was a revelation, But he was a revelation, and he never knew what he would do, But there were some great performances, and the beautiful thing at night when you saw the stage, it kind of looked like one of those oil refineries by the road, all lit up and everything, It was a beautiful thing. And, at the time, it was like, it was like a culmination of all the spirit that was happening through the years. We went through all these different concerts, and then that thing happened.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a culmination of you know, everybody coming together, and it was just an enormous event. But it was blowing at the time. You know, I remember flying in with Keith Richards on the helicopter, and Spencer and I were there, and we flew in, and we were just looking around, you know, at the mass of people. And they were saying on the radio it was the second largest city in New York at the time, you know, all those people gathered together. And it was something, you know. But it was a long 3 days. A long, long 3 days.
You're still recovering from it, right?
Huh?
I say you're still recovering from it, right?
I don't think I've ever recovered, actually. But let's sing a song.